Welcome, boys and girls of the internet. How are you all doing today? Welcome back to Cheap Shot Cinema. Well, this is Cheap Shot News. I should probably get the name right, but under the umbrella of Cheap Shot Cinema. So, today, going to talk about a lot of things, so let's get into it. So, first, X-Men speculation. And this actually came out from the topic of Deadpool 3 is already in pre-production. I shouldn't say pre-production. Fox is already scheduling Deadpool 3. So looking into this a little further, really cool. Deadpool 2 is still a ways off. So why would they put into production Deadpool 3? So I kind of dug into this a little further, and unsurprisingly, the reason is because, well, first of all, Deadpool was so successful, ridiculously successful, like top grossing R-rated movie all time successful. So can understand why. But typically this is something that still doesn't happen. You don't schedule that far out. I think the biggest reason though is X-Men is kind of dwindling down. So we have the last Wolverine movie. Hugh Jackman is stepping down from his role as the titular words. I need Mike here. He's in his room right now. Anyways, the character that has been so important to the X-Men franchise, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, as Logan, is coming out with his final movie early next year. And then on top of that, this reboot that we've had of First Class, Days of Future Past, and continuing with Apocalypse now, the major characters in those, including Michael Fassbender as Magneto, and then Professor X, played by James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence. Those characters are all at the end of their contract. They have actually no more movies on their contract, and it's unlikely that they're going to continue with that. So, two things here. That's why we're seeing already a Deadpool 3 being announced, because they're going to build around him now. And it looks like they're going to do that with an X-Force movie. Well, basically Deadpool and the X-Force, which is pretty much the X-Force, for those who don't know, is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's kind of a more grittier version of the X-Men, a little more violent, a little less rules involved with the X-Force. So, cool, but also kind of sad, because we're reaching an end of an era, and we basically are just going to wait around until reboots start to happen, or in the case of Spider-Man, maybe Marvel takes control of some X-Men characters. So, could be interesting, but we'll see what happens there. In regards to continuing on with this rebooted younger generation of X-Men with Fassbender, McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, there's been a lot of speculation of, do you continue with them? Do you try to continue it? And I don't think so. I think they've kind of had their fill with it. Jennifer Lawrence, to me, felt like she was mailing it in throughout most of the movies. She is apparently a great actress, but I just didn't see it come through a lot, especially in Apocalypse. And you can see her commitment level in Apocalypse as well, with CGing her blue instead of actually going into makeup and doing it. And Apocalypse was the weakest of the three. I know they brought in a lot of characters to kind of develop it, including, Scott as Cyclops, and then the young Jean Grey, Sophie Turner, and then they bring it in, Nightcrawler. So they have the ability to move forward, but I don't see it happening. I really don't. Maybe it does with those guys, and we kind of blend in together the X-Men series from before. But one of their big problems is the plots are all over the place. Well, timelines, I should say, not plots. The timelines are all over the place. Depending on, what universe you land into, of, how Wolverine actually went through Weapon X and different stuff like that is different from Wolverine Origins than it was in Apocalypse, and all these different things all over the place. Days of Future Past screwed a bunch of things up. Where does this new Logan movie land in the mix of it all? So that's problematic there. So I think they're just going to kind of focus on Deadpool and see where that goes, and then they're probably going to do X-Force, and there'll probably be spin-offs from that, and we'll probably start to see new characters develop, a lot like what Marvel's doing, instead of continuing to rehash these old characters, which in the case of Spider-Man, that's not really Spider-Man's fault as much as transferring hands of things. So what do you guys think? Do you think they should continue with Fassbender, McAvoy, Lawrence, see if they can, keep them on for another few movies? You're probably going to be paying them a bunch, but do you want to do that or do you want to follow Deadpool? I would prefer to follow Deadpool and the X-Force and go maybe a little darker. So that's my 2 cents. Moving on. King Kong movie. There's been a lot. Well, it's called Kong Skull Island because King Kong's been used probably 15 times already. So, been some information about this coming out. There was recently a very short TV spot, 5 to 10 second long TV spot where we actually get to see him for the first time, which I thought was kind of Yes, we get to see his face for the first time, but in the trailer, we get to see a good representation of what his size is, which there's been a lot of speculation around because supposedly around 2020, we're going to mix two of the most legendary beasts, creatures, monsters of all time again in putting together a King Kong versus Godzilla. So I believe they're both under Legendary Pictures, so it's going to be a pretty easy thing to do. But one of the problems that I saw was King Kong historically has been 50 to 60 feet tall, even in Peter Jackson's most recent King Kong movie, 50 to 60 feet tall roughly. Well, the new Godzilla is 350-ish feet tall. So size comparison a little bit. That's not much of a battle when Godzilla could literally step on and easily squash him. That being said, anyone who's seen the trailer, which I'll link below, you can check it out after you're done watching me and my beautifulness. Thank you very much. You can check it out. You don't see his face per se, but the perception of how large he is, he looks enormous. At least, I would say 200 to 300 feet tall easy. Probably not 300 easy, but 200 feet tall easy, up to 300 feet tall. There's a shot of the helicopter flying significantly far away from him, and the sun is setting in the background, and he's basically blocking out the sun. You don't get that at 50 feet tall unless you're right up next to him. So, and there's also one where he's got a handprint on the side of basically a cliff face. And perception is hard in that regard, but it looks like a big, just the handprint itself looks like it's in the 30 to 40 feet range. So we'll see what happens there. So I'm very excited. Any of you who like Pacific Rim, come on. Just monsters battling out. I don't care if there's story there. Go punch Godzilla in the face, dang it, and then breathe blue fire at King Kong Godzilla. That's what I want to see. I want it to be crazy and dumb and ridiculous and buildings collapsing and everybody going crazy. And then I want them to come together at the end to fight a common enemy. That's what I want. Thank you, Hollywood. You get that one for free. So, what do you guys think about that? I'm really excited for the Kong movie just because of the scale of it. I wasn't a big fan of the Peter Jackson one. Honestly, I haven't been a big fan of Peter Jackson's stuff outside of Lord of the Rings. Hobbit movies were okay. So, but Lord of the Rings, legit. Watch it like you haven't seen it before. Why would you be watching me if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings? Anyways, excited about that. Moving on. One of my favorite topics to speculate is Game of Thrones, and it has been announced that they are thinking about doing a Game of Thrones prequel or spin-off prequel. So this would be the first prequel, sequel, spin-off, whatever you want to call it, that HBO has ever done. So big time, and it just proves how popular Game of Thrones is that HBO would consider doing this. We're talking just ridiculous viewership. You know what I'm talking about. It's an amazing show. It's an amazing book. There's a lot of history there. I love deep history stuff. Love it, love it, love it. I'm a big fan of Adventure Time, partially because it's got so much backstory. So I always love that stuff. Now the question is there's, as far as I could tell, there's not a lot of details coming out because it hasn't actually been okayed, as far as I know, but it's probably going to be, is how far back do you go? Do you go back as far as the first men, like the first people that came over from Essos or wherever to Westeros? Do you go back that far? Do you go back just, not that far in regards to actual timeline back to like Robert's Rebellion. I think it would actually be really cool if we build up to Robert's Rebellion, see the rebellion, and then the next year the prequel series ends with like Robert taking over the throne. Like, I think that would be awesome. Another thing that I'd be really cool is seeing like the Age of Dragons and the Age of Valeria, and seeing old Valeria in like the powerhouse of Mecca in regards to technology and different things like that. I mean, the Valerian swords are still the best swords hundreds of years later in Westeros. So I mean, I would definitely watch it if they showed like the first men and conquering Westeros with the giants and the beasts and the children of the forest and everything like that. But I would like to see something a little more developed in regards to societal development. So yeah, something along the lines of Valeria and the kings riding dragons and dragon riders and different things like that. I think that would be legit. But I'd also be super happy if they did Robert's Rebellion and they led into what transpired with that and everything, and seeing a young Ned and Robert battle out. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I don't know about you guys. I get super excited about potential to things, and this is probably why a lot of movies and TV shows end up disappointing me, because I hear about them 3 years before they're ever made, and I get super excited, and I'm, oh my gosh, this is gonna be amazing, and then it's okay. Good, not great, but then my expectations were up here. So, I mean, I gotta lower them. That's the thing about big backstories, is because you can read about them and you can talk about them and you can speculate for years and years and years, and then finally something comes out and it's impossible to live up to those speculations and to those expectations. So I'm gonna like it regardless. If it's anywhere close to as good as the Game of Thrones series is now, I will love it, because that's favorite TV show hands down. So what do you guys think? What do you want it to be about? Do you know something that would be really intriguing that I haven't talked about? Maybe it's the building of the wall or something like that. That would be awesome as well. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. That I am super excited about. And continuing on as we do, yesterday, since today is the 16th, yesterday was November 15th, was the 20-year anniversary of Space Jam. I don't really know why this was such a thing on the internet, but I felt like it was something I needed to talk about, because it was so, it's still roaming around the internet quite a bit, just because there's, you know, a Space Jam 2 movie in pre-production right now. And I think it was just a big part of a lot of my generation's childhood. It was a big part of my childhood. I didn't get to watch a lot of TV and movies as a kid, partially because my mom actually wanted me to do things that didn't involve sitting, and mostly just being outside away from her. But one of the movies that I did have growing up was Space Jam, and I watched it a lot, and I haven't seen it forever, and I have a friend who has it. I should watch it sometime. I'm uncertain, because it's not going to live up to my childhood, like most of the things in your childhood don't live up to. So should I, shouldn't I? Let me know. I'm torn on it, because almost everything from my childhood outside of like juice boxes are kind of disappointing now. So I loved it though. I loved the idea of mixing a childhood idol of mine. Now, I'm from Minnesota, but we didn't have cable growing up, but we did get WGN. So I don't know if they still do this on WGN, but back in the day, WGN aired Bulls games. Got 2 older brothers, love basketball, so I grew up watching Michael Jordan play. I couldn't watch the Timberwolves, not for one, they were horrible back at that point in time, but for two, we just didn't have the station that even held them if they did have broadcast games. But we got WGN, so watched a lot of Jordan. I still have to this day a Michael or a Bulls lamp. Still works. It's like as old as me, still works. So it was something that I loved. It mixed 2 things that I loved in regards to, first of all, sports. I was into sports growing up, as well as, Looney Tunes and just cartoons in general. One of my favorite cartoons growing up was Tiny Toons, which was the littler versions of the Looney Tunes. Love that stuff and love that movie. And again, my expectations are so high as an adult that it just can't live up to those. So just just crazy, fun, awesome experience kind of reliving that and realizing, holy crap, like I was 8 years old when that movie came out, not even 8 years old. So fantastic. I'm super happy to see that they're coming out with a sequel potentially with LeBron James starring and Jeremy Lin directing. If you don't know LeBron James, well, you should know. Stop living under a rock. Seriously, stop watching me on YouTube and go outside for a change. And then Jeremy Lin, the guy who directed Fast and Furious and made that into a huge franchise, is going to direct. I actually think with James, it's going to probably be better. His acting chops are probably a little better than Jordan's were, but it didn't matter. Jordan was such a spectacle just in the minds of all us kids growing up. Anyways, thought I'd bring that up. Love that movie, even though I believe it's the second best fictional basketball game with involving space aliens. The first involving Futurama's The Professor and his super mutants, specifically one with the cannon in his chest. So you can't beat that. I'm sorry. Futurama gets 1 point on Space Jam in regards to fictional alien basketball games. So moving on. Let's see here. The last major topic I'm going to talk about before I get into quick shots is Star Wars character speculation. So recently, we've gotten some information on characters. So we knew Benicio del Toro was going to be in Star Wars episode, is it 8 now? 9? Shoot, I should know this. I feel like I should know this. Which one was this? It doesn't say. Force Awakens. The one in this specific trilogy, the next one in that trilogy, is going to have Benicio del Toro and Lauren Dern. Benicio, you should know from like Guardians of the Galaxy and a lot of other movies that he's been in over the days. Sicario recently, and then back in the day, Usual Suspects, one of my favorite movies. He's in that as well. Lauren Dern, most of you probably know her from Jurassic Park. She was the main lady in Jurassic Park. So Benicio is being kind of characterized as kind of a Lando type, where he kind of does his own thing, really confident, and not really sure, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? He's probably somewhere in between from what it sounds like. It sounds like he's like the proprietor or owner of a space casino, which I guess in Star Wars, everything's just got to be space something, even though I don't know if it's actually in space, but that's what it makes it sound like. It could be on a planet, but Star Wars is about space, so just automatically becomes space casino, I guess. So that's really cool. And then Lauren Dern is going to be an aristocratic type. What I keep hearing is basically take Hunger Games, kind of the top tier people in Hunger Games and the announcer and everything like that and all their crazy outfits, hair and makeup, and bring that kind of into the Star Wars universe just a little more grounded. So they kind of related it to like episode 1 and just the ridiculousness of the outfits of the politicians and Queen Amidala and stuff like that. So even though I don't really like to relate things to episodes 1 through 3. So that's going to be kind of it. And what gets me excited about this is we're really beginning to start exploring other worlds, other cultures, other people outside of this very specific group of, when Star Wars first came out, we saw Tatooine, then we saw Hoth, and then we saw I can't remember planets' names. And then I realized that I can name off probably less planets in my solar system than I can for Star Wars, and that made me feel bad. Anyways, the planet with the Ewoks. Yeah, it's not coming to me. Planet with the Ewoks. So we didn't really explore a lot of human-based planets. And then in episodes 1 through 3, we saw a lot of like Coruscant and different things like that. So I'm just really happy to see different planets, different people, different aliens, different cultures among the world of Star Wars, or the universe, or the galaxy that Star Wars is held in. So having those different types of people and different character development outside of the canon that is the Skywalkers and Solos is really nice to see. I mean, really think about it. Outside of the Skywalkers and the Solos, there have been very few characters that have been developed to the point of being like known characters, you know, outside of Lando and Chewie and a handful of others. I mean, outside of the big time Star Wars fans, how many other characters can you name? And even Boba Fett I don't really count because he's got like 4 lines and we actually know almost nothing about him. You know, at least in the original, we got some development later on in the episodes 1 through 3, but we still don't know most of what he did with his life. So I'm just happy that they're bringing in other people and bringing in kind of other societies and different cultures and different things like that. So super excited about that. Let me know what you guys think. If they think it's kind of a cop-out that, oh, it's a Lando type character. I think that's a real big generalization. And we'll see what happens with that, though. So as I wrap up here, as I'm going to try to do semi-weekly basis, if there's really nothing for me to talk about to end the show, I probably won't do this. But I've been doing quick shots recently, which basically topics that don't really need a lot of elaboration, just quick shots of, am I interested? Am I not interested? Or somewhere in between. Sorry, Mike, I bumped you a little bit there. Not my roommate, Mike, the physical one right here. That was weird. Anyways, I'm moving on. So Dave Chappelle was the host for SNL, and I'm not a big fan of SNL. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a big fan, but I typically don't watch it. I typically watch clips on YouTube, which you're probably watching me on right now. Clips on YouTube to get the best stuff, because SNL, like a lot of things in life, are really hit or miss. So you get like the Benedict Cumberbatch, not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before. Like there was one good skit, and then the rest of it was, his monologue wasn't very good. It was actually kind of awkward. But then you got Dave Chappelle, a guy who really hasn't done much in the last 10 years. And I don't even know if I'm even really sure why that situation transpired. And he just kind of left Chappelle Show and did things in Africa for a while. At least that's what I've been told or what I heard. But now he's kind of making a comeback. And so he comes on and hosts SNL. And he does an awesome monologue, which I'll post below. It's got a lot of politics in it, so if you're not really into like the politics, and he talks about Trump a lot, but he's super funny. It's relevant, it's funny, it's actually heartfelt at certain times, and it's classic Chappelle. Didn't really like his show that much, although again, like SNL, Chappelle Show had some great bits, but it was really hit or miss. But I really loved his comedy. I really loved his stand-up when I was younger. And to see him make a comeback makes me super happy. So I know he's kind of traveling around doing some different things. But I really hope he finds his way into like more movies or TV or something like that, because his deliveries, his just demeanor, he seems just like a cool dude that does comedy and probably smokes some weed. So I really enjoyed it. Definitely check out his monologue below. I definitely recommend it. Also, as I feel like I have to talk about every single week now, and I don't know what this is, I guess, guys, this is just like my continuing finger, so just go with it. It's going to be around. Continuing on, I got to talk about Disney stuff, I feel like, at least once a week. Beauty and the Beast trailer came out, and it looks like a live-action Beauty and the Beast. So it kind of threw me off because like of how like what's an actual little clock look like in real life compared to a cartoon clock in a movie. And that's kind of what surprised me. I don't know why it surprised me, but you see Cogsworth and he's like this little clock with all these gears in it and stuff like that, and he's talking and you can't really see his eyes or his mouth or anything because everything's just kind of jumbled together. And then you see the guy who's the candlestick. I don't remember all their names, guys, come on. And And then The Beast, which looks good, not great. I see, that's the thing. I don't know how he's supposed to look, because as a cartoon, you have softer features and everything like that. And in real life, you're not going to have those soft features, and you're going to be more realistic. So yeah, he's definitely a little scarier than I remember him as a kid. But I'll post that below as well. You can check that out. Out of all the remakes, or not remakes, they're just, well, yes, they are live action remakes, I guess. Of all the live action remakes that Disney's coming out with, this is kind of low on my level. I thought the movie is a very good movie, very well done, but it's not my favorite Disney movie. I have a lot of other Disney movies that I like a lot more, specifically in the Pixar era. So, but I know this had a big impact on a lot of people, probably even a little older than me. I know my sister really likes this movie, as well as The Little Mermaid. So, let me know if you just think I'm stupid and I'm not putting enough credence into the awesome Beauty and the Beast movie that's coming out. I know my friend that we do the Cheap Shot Cinema podcast on, Ben Manane, is super excited about this. So, finally, I'm going to wrap up. Another thing that Ben Manane is probably excited about is the Justice League Dark trailer. So, for those of you that don't know, Justice League Dark is kind of basically the situations that the Justice League doesn't feel like they're either qualified or care enough to handle goes to the Justice League Dark. It's more about the spiritual and magical element. So you got guys like John Constantine heads that up with like Swamp Thing and different characters like that. So trailer came out, watched it. Trailer, I'm not really sure how I feel about the trailer. It looked good. If this movie's anything like what DC Animated and Warner have put out before, it's going to be good. I mean, seriously, you guys, watch Flashpoint Paradox, awesome. Watch Batman Under the Red Hood, awesome. Dark Knight Returns, awesome. So if it's anywhere in that realm, it's going to be good. So regardless of how I feel about the trailer, which was so-so, I'm going to probably like that movie. So excited to see that. It's also rated R, which I, for some reason, just get super giddy about R-rated cartoon movies, because it's just something we don't see very often. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for coming out. Please comment below for anything you want me to talk about, or any just comments you have, questions you have about the episode, or just things you want me to talk about in the future. Please like and subscribe as well if you like what you see here. You can also find us with more original content written in video on cheapshotcinema.com. You can follow us on Twitter at cheapshotcinema, and on Facebook. Just search Cheap Shot Cinema. You guys have a great day. Bye.